Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Why am I not in the intro? I gotta come up with a snappy line.
What's up, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld Podcast. We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion each and every week. And this week on the show, we're going to be breaking down that incredible new first trailer for the Acolyte, as well as talking about the newest episode of the Bad Batch, Bad Territory, and stick around where we will be responding to your Ask the SWU comments and questions, all that and much more on this episode of the Star Wars Underworld Podcast. My name is Chris, and joining me, it's Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
I might say we are entering some good territory tonight, talking about a whole bunch of stuff. And actually, there's a bunch of stuff that's been happening this week. It's funny, the Star Wars news scene has just been on fire. We got George Lucas defending Bob Iger. We got Celebration Japan confirmed release date for tickets. What else? We got all 9 movies are coming back to theaters, all this stuff. And we're not going to talk about any of it tonight. Not a single thing, because we got 2 big things to talk about. And that's all that is on our minds tonight, especially one giant freaking awesome trailer that I cannot wait to get into.
This was the first week in a while that it was suggested that we might do 2 shows. Didn't happen. But there was a brief entertainment of the concept, because we could have definitely
What are you guys doing tomorrow night?
We definitely could do a full show on the news, a full show on the Bad Batch, and a full show on the Acolyte, if we had infinite time.
We could have done a show like two shows every day this week and still not got everything.
You know, I'm curious actually if y'all get this standard response. Often when I tell people I do a Star Wars podcast and they're not avid fans of Star Wars, their response is, "What do you even talk about?"
Oh my god, every day of my life.
Yes, I knew it.
Like, that was like
No,
40 years ago. How do you talk about it? It's like,
Joel's the only one.
Because I
who doesn't get that.
always try to
Good
add
Joel.
in, it's like, yeah, I've done a show for 10 plus years, and it's like 2+ hours long. Like two hours. What do you talk about for 2 hours for Star Wars? Like, they're always impressed by it, but they're always bewildered by it. Also, equally bewildered by the idea of a 2-hour-long Star Wars podcast weekly.
I don't know. I guess Toronto fans are just better because, you know, what I get is, what do you think of the latest Mandalorian episode? What do you think of this? What do you think of that?
I
didn't really like those last 3 movies.
Sure, yeah, I get that.
Oh yeah,
well, you're in Mississippi, Ben. That makes
Disney
sense.
spiel. No, it happens at Costco.
What's that
here
supposed
too.
to mean? Jeez. Insulting my state? No, actually, kind of sucks here. Never mind.
So I'll have a new anecdote for people. Anecdote. I don't know how to stress that word. Dote. I'll have a new
I'm glad
dote.
you called attention to that.
I have a new dote for people. When they ask this, instead of just like trying to list all the things on Disney Plus that are coming out recently or in the future or currently, I'm just going to say there was 1 week recently where we could have actually done 3 shows, and here's why. And I'm just going to list out what I just said. And then they'll get it, and then we can move on to talking about other things and not just why am I talking about Star Wars Weekly. Also joining us, that other voice you hear in face, you see, it is Ray from the Raeside.
Hey, g'day there. Great to be here. The piece of information from this week that I thought was most shocking and random was I woke up to this morning that Darth Vader has taken over the Empire State Building. Like, what is this even in relation
that also
to?
happened.
Like, what is the motion? And it's like all red, and Darth Vader's like storming around the building, and I'm like, what is happening? I don't even know what that's promoting. But super fun. We're gonna have a great week, and we're gonna get into it. Can't wait.
Yeah, I got to give it up to our friends at Fantha Tracks who posted a photo of Hayden Christensen looking out the window from the top of the Empire State Building, and it says, "Anakin has the high ground."
Oh,
finally did it.
That's a great one.
Right, there you go.
Finally did it.
That's a great one. So as you probably can tell, Dominic is not here with us this week. But we're fitting the Dominic size hole with two fantastic guest hosts who you know from another very awesome show on this channel from Eye On Canon. First, we got Joel.
Hello, everyone. And I don't know about you guys, but I would love to talk about why George Lucas is defending Bob Iger against the board proxy battles like Pearl Mother and Nelson Putz. It's very fascinating. It's very fascinating. And, we can't wait to go to IgerCon. Yay, Disney Investor Board meetings. But no, I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to talk about this trailer. We have lots of thoughts.
Yes. I attempted to read an article about why the George Lucas Bob Iger thing is happening, and it was very difficult for me to wrap my head around all the complexity because it was all eye-level business stuff. But I think I kind of sort of understand what's going on. I have some more ammunition too for the Disney haters. This week's all about ammunition for people.
Oh yeah.
So I think I already knew this, but I keep forgetting this fact. The fact that George Lucas is the biggest shareholder of Disney. I keep forgetting that. And so that next time someone comes at me with the whole like Disney's ruining Star Wars thing, George should have never sold it, I need to come back with, do you know who owns Disney? Like,
he owns a third.
He owns a decent amount of Disney, and if they were really doing something he didn't want them to do, he would have the power and leverage to keep them.
He has more influence on Disney than most people do.
Yeah, exactly. So it's good being reminded of that. That's the one takeaway I had from that story. Also joining us, it's the other co-host and our senior karaoke correspondent. That was a lot for my mouth, and I wasn't expecting.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
That's a tongue twister. Karaoke correspondent, our senior karaoke correspondent. It's Matthew from Eye On Canon. Hey, Matthew.
How's it going, everybody? Yeah. Same spot, exact same spot, same mic, same camera, same everything. It's my work from home setup, etc. Also, I gotta say, I'm not saying that I have the best go-to karaoke song in the universe. Okay. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences is saying that I have the best go-to karaoke song in the universe. After that performance, I had to shut that out. I'm just Ryan Gosling, Vancouver's or London, Ontario's Ryan Gosling. Forget that. It's Ryan Reynolds is from Vancouver. Ryan Gosling's from London, Ontario. Got to shout him out. Doing a fantastic job. Oh, also Star Wars. Yeah. So home for happy to talk about High Republic for the first time on the Underworld podcast. That's my dream. We found it on Canon in part to fill the niche, fill the paper niche here on the Underworld world, CultureSlate world, and finally coming home to roost here, talking about this era, my favorite thing in Star Wars, and get to share that because it's coming to live action, guys.
I'm just marveled at the generosity and kindness of Eye On Canon for letting Dominic use their set for the Star Wars Underworld all these weeks.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are awesome.
Nice.
Dom and I actually share a collection. We kind of merged a collection.
Hasn't been evicted yet, or
if it's
or anything.
An in-box Black Series figure, it's mine. If it's an out-of-box Black Series figure, it's Dom's. That's how it works.
Hilarious.
So Matthew, you're like me. You don't take it out of the box. You keep it in there. Nice and safe.
I used to be like Dom until I started putting things on camera, and I found out it's a lot better for things on camera to be in the box. So since then, I have this right here. But however, for those listening, I'm holding up a Sabine Wren Mandalorian. It might as well be Ahsoka figure.
Right.
But I also have been too lazy to figure out where to put a background in my new place, so I've been having the green screen for like the last little while as well. That's a good way to differentiate. I was gonna suggest a label maker.
Oh yeah,
but it looks like you're way ahead.
Then we'd be on the figure.
Yeah, we got to figure out, when you bequeath your collections to your kids after you die, whose kids get what. That's the real
my nieces are taking Percy. Is what's happening.
Ooh, wow. They already have a mark on Percy. My goodness, popular pig.
Put it in the will.
My nieces do love Percy.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. So
Dom can take Percy back. It's fine. It's fine.
as we've been alluding to multiple times, we have a lot to talk about, so we should get to it. I'm gonna run through the plugs extremely fast. The gist is you should subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're watching on YouTube, you can super chat with us. You can become a channel member. If you're just listening, subscribe on the app you're listening to. Anywhere you are, you'll see the link to our Discord. Check that out and make sure that you follow us on Threads, the bot-free social network.
That's what it is.
And of course, last but not least, I'm not going to rush through this part. Check out all the fantastic shows on the Star Wars Underworld Network. We have representatives from many of them here today. Check out the Raeside, REA side, and Eye On Canon, which is on this channel on Mondays.
And Tractor Beam Wednesdays.
And also check out Tractor Beam on Wednesdays. I actually always forget what day it is, so I never say that. Thank you for. Hopefully I'll remember.
Come out Wednesdays.
Iconic.
Chris Abbott and
I never watch it live, so I always don't know what day it is because
kind of obscure. Lando's on trial for something. It's fine.
Oh my gosh.
Darth Vader's doing stuff. It's all good.
Yeah.
So let's get right to it, and our first huge news story is that we finally have footage from the Acolyte. We finally have a trailer. Hopefully everybody, we're not going to play it here for copyright reasons, so hopefully everybody's watched it. But we're going to show some images. We also, I guess, haven't talked about the poster yet either. Because
that's what I was going to lead up to is we kind of got everything within like 48 hours. We've got so much stuff. We got, of course, this is the first teaser poster they released.
Oh, that's nice.
24 hours prior to, and then saying, hey, here's this great image of age of light, a darkness rises, and it's got a bloody lightsaber, which has been parodied ad nauseum.
Wait a minute. When you said that, my brain took a minute to process that you meant literally bloody. I thought you were like emphasizing, oh man, it has a bloody lightsaber. Oh yeah.
This is a bloody lightsaber, mate.
Sorry.
It's a bloody lightsaber.
Hang on.
It's a bloody lightsaber.
First time I've heard that word used literally in years. Amazing.
Well, that kyber crystal was probably bloodied, so
yeah, there it is.
Good point.
There you go. Maybe it's bleeding.
It's literally in the process. This is the dying of the
and
crystal.
Take this as you will, but some people have matched up the hilt of this with the hilt for Indara.
Rest in peace.
So yeah, we'll take that as you will. Is she the Acolyte? Does she get killed by the Acolyte? I don't know. But then the next day, as the trailer was dropping, we got this poster, which is just this great sunset thing, and also amazing. And then also we got the next day we got all the figures dropped.
Yes.
They are we're so far away from them actually being in stores. It's kind of ridiculous, but at least we have pictures of them.
Par for the course. It's par for the course for Hasbro. Sorry.
Why is Trinity's tunic so short?
That's a good point.
Well, yeah.
She's got pants on. It's okay.
It's just really
they all
short.
have pants on. There's no there's no Jedi without pants.
No.
What are you talking about?
No, I'm pretty sure Oppo Rensis doesn't have pants.
That's a good point.
Or the Wookiee one.
He has a
may
pant.
Find out. We may find out
pants, but not pants.
A pant.
How
does a snake wear pants? Does he wear them like this, or does he wear them like this?
Or is that a long shirt? Is Oppo really wearing a dress?
Totally. Yeah, he's wearing a toga.
Anyway.
Oh man.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
I think that poster, I think that shot was from Madeira. Is that Spain? Is that where it is? I saw
Filmed in
someone on social
Spain?
media.
Really?
Is Madeira
Yeah.
in Spain?
Yeah.
I know where
I think
I know
so. I think
Madeira is a
it's
thing and Spain's a thing, but I
like
don't know if they're the same thing.
islands off in the Atlantic. That are
Yeah.
part of Spain.
I just know there's a
legally.
song that comes on my playlist sometime called Madeira, but they don't educate you about geography on the song, so I usually skip it. 'Cause I didn't learn anything.
But
it's-
and then
that's
along
cool.
with these posters, we got like all the characters are in the official data bank with full on pictures and descriptions, and got confirmations on a bunch of different things, a bunch of different interviews, all the episodic directors. Maybe we'll get into it, maybe we won't, because there's so much. Because we just want to talk about the trailer. Okay, we freaking saw it. Some of us watched a potato quality version, and yes, some of that footage is in this, and I was interesting watching this, going like, oh wow, okay, I've seen some of this before, but then we got some new stuff. But yeah, I don't know where do we want to start? Genuinely,
I want to start with the thing that you said about how there's so much information. So we're used to like this. What is it called? Why am I thinking
The
it's
black
called
box.
Black box? It is black
Mystery
box.
box?
Yeah.
My brain,
Yeah.
my mystery box. There we go. I was thinking of like an airplane black box. So I'm used to like the mystery box thing where we don't know anything until like it's happening. Like who, knowing the word Grogu took a while to come in and all that stuff. And so here I am on, when was this? Monday, Tuesday, sometime around then, when this came out, Tuesday. And I'm watching the I first watched it on YouTube, and then I watched the version on Facebook because I was sharing it, and I watched it again as I was sharing it on Facebook. And I'm like watching the Facebook version, and the Facebook version has like subtitles just added to the video. I don't think you can even like turn them off. And so I'm like watching it with the Facebook subtitles, and I'm like, oh man, these are giving away so much about the story, all the character names, like, oh, someone really screwed up. And little I know that they're releasing all that stuff everywhere else at the same time. Like, oh man, that's cool.
Yeah, because I remember going back to Force Awakens days of just like when we first got the trailer. It's like, oh, look at John Boyega's character. Look at he's a stormtrooper. What is Daisy Ridley doing? Like he was like we didn't have those names. Yeah, so we were just like, oh, here's Kira Solo. Yeah. Those were the days. But now we know everything. We know so much about all of these characters, and Leslie Henderland has been really talking a lot about really everything. Like this has been the least secretive Star Wars series so far. So
I actually disagree. I actually think that this trailer is actually very mysterious, and I think
the trailer is.
Yeah,
the trailer is.
And even I don't completely trust this data bank. I think they're hiding stuff.
They're just lying.
I think there's some
Khan's not in this movie, guys. This is not a remake of The Wrath of Khan.
But
Benedict Cumberbatch plays a dragon on a planet, guys.
In a castle.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm just gonna go because we're just gonna keep riffing. We're never gonna actually get into the trailer, so I'm just gonna go. Let's just start with the first thing that we see, which is Master Soul. We know, who's played by Lee Jung Jae. And he's talking to some Padawans, and I mean, he's telling them to close their eyes, giving some Kenobi words of wisdom. Who wants to start with this? What do we think of this,
guys? Let me tell you about a game that we play. It's a Squid Game.
Oh God! These children will be fine. They got 200 years. Maybe one of those aliens who are long lived. Maybe they won't see the end happily, but the human kids, they'll live up to 100. They'll be fine. They still got a century to go. I'll just say this show really is nailing down the High Republic aesthetic really well. I mean, you got the kind of the light robes, you got the golden robes. The Jedi Temple looks all very bombastic and colorful and vibrant. It's already nailing down that High Republic stuff. But I'm gonna be honest, watching this trailer, I'm suspicious of everybody. Everybody, in my opinion, is the Acolyte. He could be the Acolyte. Amanda Stenberg's character could be the Acolyte. I mean, we all know Amanda Stenberg's character just Darth Plagueis. We know that's coming. I'm ready for it. I'm happy for my Darth Plagueis. For you don't know, Vern might have turned evil. That'd be a shock. The other guy could be the Acolyte. I suspect everybody. I suspect even those kids. But you don't
Put
know.
him on trial. Don't trust him.
Exactly. But no. First scene really nails that High Republic look of like, oh yeah, this is the Jedi of the High Republic. Gold robes, white robes, and very shiny.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
To me, it feels like this feels different. It feels like a different Jedi Temple. Even though we are seeing the same Jedi Temple from the prequels, it feels like a different place. Feels like a different time, which I really appreciate because it could just look the same, but the robes look different, the characters look different, the interior of the Jedi Temple looks different. It's all really cool. But Hannah, do you want to say something?
Yeah, just on the point of the aesthetic, I think they've balanced it really well because even if you compare the Phantom Menace aesthetics to Revenge of the Sith, there is like in Galaxy, there is quite a big difference. I feel like, you know, the war, the effect of war on people, places, and everything we see in those two movies, I find it quite different. And the Phantom Menace aesthetic is just that one step ahead of what we're seeing here. So it feels so linear. It makes so much sense how everything is looking, and then how this kind of transforms into the look of the Phantom Menace. So yeah, I really love the style of kind of all the environments we've gotten so far. I mean, within the trailer, I think it looks spot on.
Yeah. Matt, what do you make of all this first time really seeing kind of the High Republic in all its glory on live action?
And it's funny, it reminded me a little bit of the scene in Kenobi, the Obi-Wan Anakin training, because obviously, first of all, it's the volume and it's the Jedi Temple. You know, my main thought is, you know, when is this set? Who are these characters? What's going on here? You know, obviously, you know, it's a good guess. I don't know I hope I'm not jumping ahead too much, but the kid that says fire, right? It's a balance, and then fire. I'm guessing that's Amanda Stenberg's character, but also just even how, you know, in this time, and one of the hallmarks of the High Republic era is that Jedi have different ways of thinking about the Force and connecting to the Force and accessing it. And, you know, here it's a bit toned down because it's just balance and light, which are words that we hear in the Skywalker era. But for these kids to be open to chatting about that in this context, in this time when, so when we're talking about the aesthetic of it, they're younglings who are training. It is this question of how centralized are things now versus, you know, when we see in the books where things are less centralized. How centralized is the training for younglings? That's those kinds of story questions I'm already going into, that, you know, seeing the aesthetic of the Coruscant Temple reinforcing. And of course, it's Coruscant. It's gonna be my favorite planet. So I'm gonna love it anyway. But it's as we see image of Coruscant, the underworld there, but in the background. But definitely excited to go back to my favorite planet. And there you get, like Joel was saying, they're really establishing this is yet another Space Wizard show. There's Space Wizards all over, of all ages, and here for it.
And we hear Lee Jung-jae say, you know, your eyes can deceive you, don't trust them, which is, I think, was in the original trailer that they showed a Celebration.
Your eyes can deceive you, don't trust them.
Which is cool. I just like the look of it and the feel of his character. I'm curious what his whole deal is going to be. He feels like maybe he's supposed to be what is the... I actually need to bring up the data bank to see, like, because there's some great descriptions of all these characters. And like he's supposed to be like a wise and powerful and respected member of the Jedi.
He's just a Jedi master of the temple, and quite a
I'll bring up the data bank. Hang on. Oh, I got it. Hang on, everyone. Come on, computer. Dramatic. Hey, Master Soul is a wise, highly respected. Master Soul is a wise, highly respected, powerful Jedi master, strong in the ways of the Force, who is going through emotional conflict.
That's right.
So there is some.
Maybe he's going through a breakup. Maybe that's what we see.
Because the the original synopsis that they released, this came out before the trailer. It said, in The Acolyte, an investigation into a shocking crime spree pits a respected Jedi Master, Lee Jung-jae, against a dangerous warrior from his past, Amanda Stenberg. As more clues emerge, they travel down a dark path where sinister forces reveal all is not what it seems. So that seems to connect the two characters that we have. And I guess the next character that we do see, and we can talk about really quick, is Amanda Stenberg, who plays May. And she has apparently important connection. Later on in the trailer, we actually see her fighting Lee Jung-jae. And I don't know, Chris, what is your first impressions of May?
Really cool. This is really the only character that I've kind of thought about. Well, a little bit with the Jedi Master as well that we were just talking about. But like, I think Amanda Stenberg was one of the first casting announcements for the show. Like, I think it was announced that they'd be in the show like over a year, 2 years ago. It's been a while since that announcement was made. So whenever I picture the show in my head, this is what I'm picturing. Now, I didn't know exactly, how, the character's hair would be and like her outfit and everything, but I've been picturing Amanda Stenberg's face in this show for a long time. So and I did expect, the character to be kind of like an antagonistic character in a sense, definitely not aligned with the Jedi. So not surprised at all by any of this, and it looks really, really cool. It's mysterious, it's intriguing, like Joel, like you said. It doesn't really give us a lot of information about what's going on, but I do think the additional information that they released about her character is gives us a little bit to go off of.
Well, Chris, we all know that they are going to be Darth Plagueis. This is the Darth Plagueis origin story.
Okay,
Anyway.
so here's the thing. Okay, so
your May theory sucks.
There's a few interesting things about Darth Plagueis. For one, I will be very shocked if Darth Plagueis is not in the show. I really think Darth Plagueis is going to be in the show.
Me too.
Now, the big question though is, and this is a great week to be asking this question because we have the folks from Eye On Canon here.
Yeah.
Where in canon, Disney canon, does it confirm that Plagueis is a moon or mun, depending on how you want to pronounce it?
It's not.
That's what I was going to say. I don't think it has been confirmed.
I think Wikipedia. Sure.
It's only the James Luceno Legends novel.
And
we're gonna do a double check
and
just to make sure.
I mean, I think it's still only presumed that Plagueis is the master of Darth Sidious. I mean,
nope, that's in the Tarkin novel.
Right? Yes, you're right. That is in the Tarkin novel.
And the Rise of Skywalker novelization.
Well, that doesn't. That's not canon.
And the Shadow of the Sith.
Obviously, though, but this still raises the same question that I always bring up: is okay, how much is a TV show going to be bound to a James Luceno novel from
and the Rise of Skywalker novelization, which I do think is more adhered to canon than
maybe.
And the Darth Sidious biography in the databank.
It's the same
again,
thing
none of those things will be. I mean, again, if anything has a chance of, this raises a deeper question, right? If anything has a chance of being held to and adhered to, first of all, it's just kind of this weird sort of generally understood, accepted thing, I guess, that Plagueis is Sidious master. That's heavily implied by the opera scene, right?
Yeah, I don't expect that they're gonna mess with that, and the reason why is I think that everybody interprets the Revenge of the Sith scene as Sidious talking about himself.
Yeah.
I think Lucas even confirmed it in early drafts of the script of
so I don't expect them straying from that. Obviously, they take creative liberty with a lot of things, and they could with that. But I think the bigger question is the species. I think the species is a lot more.
Let's face it. There are things that are canon that were in like comics and stuff, and even on screen they've contradicted in the past. So it's all relative, and you have to kind of like I think I personally would like. I think it would be cool if Darth Plagueis was immune, and I think that would be cool to keep with that. But I also have to accept that like they could change that drastically, and there's nothing saying they can't. It's just like with Darth Bane. Like Darth Bane was established for the prequel mythology and was created by George Lucas, but ultimately the only thing we've seen of him is his ghost in Clone Wars, and like even that. So whenever we get to the point where we're going to see Darth Bane, like they could take it any place because we really haven't seen him yet.
Yeah. So
I
the
would
real
be surprised though. I would honestly be surprised if they changed the species of Tenebris or Plagueis.
well,
That's
Tenebris,
also
I would
Darth Tenebris is a Bith. I want to see that.
Yeah,
too.
that one,
right.
definitely could potentially see even more change because his
Son of a bitch.
bithness, that's an odd thing to say. His
bithness.
Like, we have some bithness.
Hello, your
And I
bithness.
bithness. So
Sith business. Go back to your drink.
Sithness business. Wait.
Okay, I mean, I want to just say,
Sith
but the point,
bithness.
Chris, I'll let me finish your point, but
The point is,
and then I want to
his
jump in.
bithness is less integral to the story than Plagueis's munness.
Munness.
Moonness.
Unity.
Moonness. This. But
it's like Luke.
Moo. I'm not a cow. I might be bantha though. So, but the thing is, his munness is integral because his real persona of Hugo Damask is, it's big that he has those connections with like the banks. Like
So
that's a
he's
huge part of
Damascus. He's Damascus.
his Damascusness is very important. So the thing is, if you're gonna change the bithness, I'm just saying it because it's fun now. If you're gonna change the bithness of Tenebris, then, which I love his name because it comes from the Latin word for darkness. It's beautiful.
What are you saying? Tenebris.
Tenebris. I've only read it. I very rarely hear it said.
Doesn't matter.
So if they change, I'm just gonna say it in the correct Latin Tenebris. I think wow, that's crazy word vomit. Sorry, I'm gonna clean that. So, anyway,
I have a point in mind if you want me to dive in.
The point is that doesn't change the story. However, if you're going to change the species of Plagueis, then that puts in the question: are you going to change the whole story about Hugo Damask and where he comes from and how the Clone Wars even get started? We have a surprise guest, and it's not Darth Plagueis. Or maybe it is.
Or it could be. I don't know. Maybe
Now
I
it can
changed
be.
my immuneness.
Have you come to announce that you're playing Darth Plagueis in Acolyte?
I mean, I really couldn't say, even if I wanted. Are my teeth blue? Is that
Just gaslight him into believing you're blue.
Did you just drink blue Pepsi or Mountain Dew or something?
Let's go with that.
Is happening.
Let's go with that as the answer.
Okay.
I'm calling because I think this is the Disney complaint line, right?
Yes.
Yes. I'd like to complain about the release date of the trailer. Why this week? I told you guys months ago that I wasn't going to be here. Why this week?
So we could be on. So Joel and I could be on.
No, that's wrong. That's wrong. I'm just saying, if you're going to say this, it's the High Republic show, get the High Republic guys on. You're missing one of them.
I know.
You're missing one of them.
I had some over pizza today. Or I had some over pizza today. It was good. My point being, what Chris was implying there is we got to remember what this show is doing, what it's about. The species of Darth Tenebris isn't really that important. Yes, the species of Darth Plagueis, sure, because what Chris is implying there is the role of the Sith in creating the Separatist crisis, and the Sith in announcing themselves to the galaxy. And if that's what this show is doing, I'm not sure that's what this show is doing. We all seem convinced that maybe it is, but if that's what this show is doing, then yes, we should see some stirrings of what Darth Plagueis is up to and whatnot. Yeah, the fact
can I interject here again?
Yeah.
I'm just going to point out, I'm on the show for 2 minutes, and you're going to talk the entire time.
I was about to make that joke.
That's
I'm like,
how we roll.
phenomenal point.
Just
like,
playing it out.
shut up,
You
Tom.
got-
I know
Okay,
what you're
all right,
calling in.
all
right.
From the
I've got
street.
about a minute till I have to get on an underground train.
Right.
And you're
Okay.
like, you know what? I'm going to be on the show for the entire 2.5 hours. Let me discuss my point about the species of the.
Hey, I was trying to get
Okay,
off the
okay.
conversation.
What did
I was
you
trying to get
think
off
of the
that
trailer, Dom?
Well,
You guys are such roommates.
I'm in the
This is such
51% that
roommates.
downvoted it.
Of course
Oh,
you are.
that was you.
Send all your hate mail too.
Oh
Yeah,
my
exactly.
God.
Directed to me. No, it's a really special trailer. Like what has stunned me about what they've done with the Disney Plus stuff is how long it took them to get to Jedi characters. It was Mandalorians, it was bounty hunters, it was all that stuff. It took them so long, and then how long it's taken them to get to new Jedi characters. And that's the thing with the Disney era in general. You had Rey, you've had Ezra, you've had Kanan. They've owned the thing for well over 10 years at this point, and we've had 3 new main on-screen Jedi. You can't throw Cal Kestis in there. Fair, that's a fair good choice for a 4th one. But like this is the first like true new Jedi show. I'm here for it. I think that's been missing from the Star Wars experience for the last 12 some odd years, and I'm glad that I look at what's coming up down the line with the New Jedi Order movie and the Dawn of the Jedi stuff. I'm now walking through a construction zone, so thanks, Matt.
I aim to serve,
But like I look at that and I'm like, okay, we're getting back to the Jedi. We're getting back to the things that are the main icons of Star Wars. As much as Mandalorians and bounty hunters have become that, and I'm here for that too. But it's like you hold up a lightsaber, everybody instantly goes, "Ah, yes, Star Wars," and it's been that way for over 45 years. So, anyways. All right,
Yes.
I'll stop. You know what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give everybody else a turn to talk. And I'm gonna wait. All right.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, I think Matthew brings up a great point, though, and that is, what is the mission statement of the show, and what is its ultimate end goal and purpose? And I know it's in the High Republic, but I think it has more to do with getting that link to the prequels and Phantom Menace. I mean, sure, we got 100 years, and obviously, I don't think there's going to be a 100-year time jump. But I do think that this is the show that's like, Sith are like, we're getting up, we're getting ready to do baseball. We're gearing up. Time to, we wade throughout the Nile. Those guys were punks. We don't really care about them. But like, all right, Jedi, we're getting ready. We're gearing up. It's starting to start moving.
I think there's 2 answers to this, and that's the one that Leslie Headland's giving, and then the one that I think is true. So the one that Leslie is saying is that the mission statement of this show is to show how basically the Republic deteriorates and how the Jedi deteriorate. And there was a quote where, paraphrasing, she said, like, you get to Phantom Menace and the prequels, and you have like the Sith manipulating everything and controlling the Senate, and the Jedi don't even notice. Like, how the heck does that happen? This show's going to be about how that happens, is what she said. And whereas what I think is, I think that the whole Jedi thing is like a red herring and like a facade. Like, I think it's something familiar to bring us in. We're gonna like start with the Jedi because we know who they are, and we don't know about like the Acolytes and any of this other stuff and any of these other antagonistic characters. But I think the show's definitely gonna dive a lot more into the dark side and that side of things and what's been going on in the shadows than people would expect from just seeing this trailer. This trailer kind of shocked me a little bit, because when I saw it, I'm like, wow, there's way more Jedi in this than I was expecting. But when I think about it, I think it's because that's like the introduction to the show is through the perspective of the Jedi. But I think by the time it's finished, we're going to look back at the show in the same way that we look back at, those episodes of Clone Wars that dealt with like Ventress and Savage and Dooku.
Yeah, I mean, these Disney Plus. Oh, go ahead.
No, the only thing I want to add to this is like my general idea of like what they haven't said this, but my take on what the story is just like, this is Murder on the Orient Express, except with Jedi. Like, this is, everyone's a suspect. Because like, you were talking about earlier, Joel, the mysteriousness of the show. Like with May, they have been very mysterious. She has the shortest character description. They haven't gone out of their way to say she only has one name, as in Rey and May. Like she's
Palpatine,
very much
May Palpatine.
Yeah. Oh God! Don't even get started.
Palpatine's mom.
Those are actually happening. It's very possible. Okay, it's very possible. But we're left with this like, okay, who's who, and we're assuming she's the Acolyte, but maybe she isn't. And like, I'm looking at all these characters, like they all could be it. Like there's a scene, not to jump too far ahead, but the scene at the end where there's a dude or a lady or something else with a lightsaber, a red lightsaber that force pushes a bunch of Jedi away, and then you're like, well, they're fighting them, and then like, well, what if those scenes are spliced together? Could be any of these people. Could be any of these people that are killing Jedi, that are murdering
It's
them.
Jonas Sorimo's character. Okay. Totally.
Exactly.
Wookiee sus.
That Wookiee, yeah, can't trust him. So okay, we need to keep moving forward. Okay, the next character we are introduced to is Jedi Trinity, aka Indara, played by Carrie-Anne Moss. She has a big force kung fu battle with Amanda Stenberg, and it's quite interesting, and she looks great. I think the fact that this is Carrie-Anne Moss kind of sells the character more. That you're like, okay, I know Carrie-Anne Moss can do kung fu. She's done it. I've seen her do it in multiple movies. Like she can do this, and you can clearly see her face doing this. And the fact that it's like not just a lightsaber battle, it's like knife battle. It's really cool. But Joel, what are your first impressions on Indara, Jedi Master Indara, I should say?
She's not going to be around for much of the show, is she? She's probably
She's
probably dead first.
Joel Davis incendiary take.
Yes. Also, I just realized we lost Hannah. No. But yeah, it's interesting. But again, like the thing, we see Amanda Stenberg's character go toe to toe with her. Why? Who? What's going on? What's why is all this happening? Like, is it because Amanda Stenberg's an acolyte? It's like darn Jedi. Or did she do something to Amanda Stenberg's character? I don't know. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. Love the robes though, and I love the kung fu force abilities. It's a little like what we saw in Ahsoka, where Ezra's just using the force, but a bit more faster, a bit more intense, faster, more intense. Kung fu. Yeah, very interesting. I mean, again, all these characters mysterious, and I think maybe her character is the one to die first and be the catalyst for the Jedi hunting whoever's killing these Jedi.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see where she goes. I mean, she's a very immediately interesting character to me. Just the fact that it's Carrie-Anne Moss is really pulling me in. True. But like also just like, okay, she's this Jedi Master. What are things? Hannah, what were your first impressions on Jedi Trinity, and how fast do you think she's gonna die?
About the third episode. Good God, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think
that.
Yeah, right. I think that's one of the intrigues that I have about this show is that really anyone is up in the air to die. We don't know if they're going to last like one episode or the whole show, and they go on, in other pieces of media. So I think that's really interesting in this element. So I don't know. I don't think I could make a call, but I am enjoying the fact that like it's just so open, and we like don't know how much they're going to be involved and what kind of death they might have, and for the story, it's going to be really interesting.
I just can't stop thinking about George Lucas doing kung fu. Because Joel put that in my head by mentioning those two things next to each other, and now I
feel like he would do his little like George Lucas sounding grunts, being like, "Huh, yeah,
everybody was kung fu fighting."
Yeah.
So I want to bring up a comment here. I know. I'm just taking the initiative to do that. So we're bringing this up.
Take it away, Matthew. Go ahead, champ.
Good point.
Anyway, I don't think so, and I think we're getting off the beaten path, off track here. If what we're thinking is people are going to get killed off, especially, I don't think you want to waste Carrie-Anne Moss. She's too good of an actor. She's too good of a kung fu artist, martial artist. So we don't. I mean, she could, but I mean, that's the thing about this trailer. I'm just realizing this now. It dragged me in more with the ideas that it presents rather than character moments like this. Yeah, it brought me in with production design, but I have no idea. This gave me nothing to go on anything, and so I want to be careful not to make any sort of kind of incendiary take about who's going to get killed off when. So my answer is I don't know, and I don't even think anybody might not. I mean, yes, someone's killing Jedi. That's all we know. Chris, I'm still thinking about your comment about how these Jedi might just be the red herring. Kind of like was the James Gunn Suicide Squad, where you have all those characters at the beginning. Again, that I don't know either. I mean, it could be, but that'll be surprising. And it would be a little disappointing, frankly, if that was the case, because I mean, I think we do. I think what Leslie Headland is saying, I'm gonna disagree and say I think what she is saying about who the Jedi are and who the Republic is, the only and yes, she's gonna maybe say it through saying what's been going on in the shadows, maybe even during the books and comics 100 years ago and 250 years ago before this, only because, and this is the point I was trying to make before, is there's been no screen creative more than her who said, I care about what's been happening in the books, in the comics. I'm actually paying attention to these things. That's why I'm so excited for this show, by the way. And so we got to keep that in mind, that even if she does tell a very different story, it still is the concerns, because what the High Republic Publishing Initiative is all about, at least I think it is about that same question, about how they got from the Republic at its zenith and the Jedi at their height. It's called the High Republic for a reason. How they got from there to what we see in the Phantom Menace, and especially in Attack of the Clones, right, where they become the generals of an army. They become under the thumb of the Sith. It'd be good to show what's going on in the shadows, because I mean that's another thing is in the actual books and comics. And Joel, you alluded to this as well. There's no mention or appearance of any kind of Sith at all, except for one little flashback from a couple centuries before. And so, to see, okay, if we can get some sense of what they're up to, even in this whole period. So that's the thing. So that is interesting. I know I'm kind of veering off, bringing back to Carrie-Anne Moss's character. I mean, she reminds me of, say, Salandra Show from Phase 2, who is this shield. She's really cool, this character. She doesn't have a lightsaber. I mean, I guess she does have a lightsaber, but she prefers not to use it. She has a light shield. And symbolic of who the Jedi are meant to be. And we got to pay attention to the ages of these characters, right? Who the Jedi are meant to be, and then who the Jedi become, right? It's important to say Qui-Gon, for example. He's a bit older. He's an image of who the Jedi are meant to be first. And then, I mean, Anakin is emblematic, of course, of ultimately of who the Jedi become. But that's just one of the things that we got to pay attention to. Carrie-Anne Moss, she's a bit of an older character, and she's taking on maybe those older roles than
Well, Matthew, we know that there's going to be a much older character who's got a little bit more experience.
Yes,
and maybe we should talk about them because we don't have a picture in the thing.
Can we?
Can't wait.
Well, I mean, I was just about to mention the fact that this is another tidbit that came out this week, that Leslie Headland confirmed that Vernestra Rowe will be the only character from the books that will be showing up in season 1. And her thing was, she said, I just want to save people for season 2. So I'm like, okay, season 2? You said season 2? Like, that's what I'm getting from that, is there's going to be a season 2 of this show.
Force Ghost, Avar, Chris. Let's go.
It feels like it may be a concerted effort on her part to, like, not step on the toes of the books yet, because we know this show's been in development for a while, and season 2 will probably be out long after, High Republic is kind of done, at least the first they're
the
calling it.
publishing initiative. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Whatever that had started way back when is now going to be wrapping up. So I think it's kind of her way of like not stepping on the toes of the books and going like, okay, just let those play out. Yes, for Nestor, we know she survives, but everyone else is still in jeopardy. We don't know what's going to happen with them. And if anyone survives that, and anyone that can logically be around, it's some of an alien species, I mean, probably not human, that can survive this long, then they might show up in season 2, which I think is pretty cool.
So a couple things I just want to mention. One, I want to know a lot about when this show's over. I want to know like a lot about the time and development time between this and the book initiative, because this is coming out in the midst of Phase 3, but this had to be written like during Phase 1, maybe during a little Phase 2. If they knew anything, it is broad bones outline like the Nile will be destroyed. No duh. Marcy on Roe will be dead. Maybe. Well, she's old and decrepit in this series. I don't know. But so yeah, there's that. Two, this show really is doing a good job of like, making me not worry about having to read the books and stuff, because I actually didn't recognize it was Vernestra in that one scene. It's like I'm not used to older Vernestra who's bald and doesn't have her teenage youngerness. It's like I didn't recognize her. I'm so used to having her looking cartoony because of the books she's in.
Purple hair.
But she could play very much maybe an Obi-Wan role of like someone going, "You fought the Nile Wars?" "Yes, I was a Jedi Knight, same as your master." But also that actually makes me wonder, because there's a season 2, which I think there's a high chance there's going to be. I think this is very much pitched as a multi-season show. They'll be writing, season 2, if not sooner now, or maybe soon, when most of the information of Phase 3 is almost done. They'll have more of a complete picture. So I am kind of picture that more narrative threads and more direct links will probably happen more in the second season, because then they won't have to worry about spoiling anything, because the author might change their mind last minute about something, even if the general outline's the same, but they want to get the details right. So that's something I'll be very curious to see, but it's exciting,
Yeah.
Go ahead,
And to say it's refreshing that this is actually a live conversation, because again, for what we were getting at with even the Canon Tarkin novel, those things, who cares? Screen creatives aren't necessarily going to pay attention to that. We're actually, Leslie Headland she's still in conversation. She might not fully pay attention to everything. She might retcon some things, if I can use that term. But yeah, the fact that could be a possibility, that she is waiting for those stories to flesh out. I will say Yoda, Yaddle, Operanchisis, all those folks, they're still around, and they have stories in the High Republic. They're there. But yeah, I mean, thinking about Vern, and that's the interesting thing about her is in Phase 1, she's the prodigy. She has it all together. And she thinks she has it all together. She thinks she knows what she's doing, and that's her downfall, right? She actually doesn't, because that's how teenagers can be, right? When they like really talented, really skilled teenagers can be. They think they're right. They think they know what they're doing. They think they can take the fight to the Nile, and then spoiler alert, guys, Starlight Beacon falls. It gets destroyed.
What?
That
it what?
Spoilers, Matthew.
So and now the Phase 3, and Dom can, as he said, could probably tell you more about where her character is going. That's the thing with Phase 3, is that the fall. It's about how the fall of Starlight affects everyone, and how that's led her to question a lot of what she thought she knew. Led her to question, who does she depend on? Who can she depend on? And at this point in the story, she's in Defy the Storm, which is kind of where we are in Phase 3. She's out and exploring herself and questioning things and sorting things like a typical young adult story. So fast forward, what I'm looking forward to is for her to actually look back on her youth and helping these younger characters, maybe helping people understand Amanda Stenberg's character, understand May, and saying, May almost being in this, I'm off exploring myself and figuring things out and questioning things. Hopefully coming back to some sense of, okay, this is how things need to be, how things are, who I need to depend on, who I need to connect with, and not be so, finding, because I think Vern's story especially is questioning her source of confidence and then finding that inner confidence that also then depends on others. I wonder if that's quintessential Star Wars, right? I'm wondering and hoping if at least, with the May character, well, that's the question that I wanted to bring up at the beginning, when we were talking about May. Yeah, maybe not aligned at this point, not aligned with anybody. And there's this really fascinating quote coming up, in the trailer about power and right and good and evil and right and wrong. Are we still supposed to cheer for her? Are we supposed to hope she succeeds in whatever it is she's up to, or not? And that's really the big question. That and I'm bringing this up in context of Vern, because at the beginning, Vern, I think we're sort of supposed to, in phase 1, supposed to be like, yeah, she's helping out these younglings, and then she's goes and actually finds the key to how the Nile can go through hyperspace, and she goes on these adventures. But we're also supposed to question her self-confidence and her kind of arrogant sense of, I know what I'm doing.
Matthew, like, I do say like protagonist, antagonist, because we know ultimately the Sith are the antagonists and their foils the Jedi, or vice versa. But with that being said, within the context of what Leslie Headland said about this really being a show about how the Republic falls and how the Jedi become corrupted in a sense. I can't remember if she used that word. I feel like she might have somewhere. Really, it doesn't. You can't just assume that the Jedi characters, just because they're Jedi, are going to be a hero in this show.
Yeah,
and that goes along with what you're saying there. And that's a really interesting take on it. It's like, we might be finding out how messed up the Jedi really are and have become in this show. And
I would argue that like Yoda and especially Mace Windu and Ki-Adi Mundi in the Phantom Menace are antagonists. They're standing in the way of what the main characters want. They are telling Qui-Gon, no, this kid will not be trained. No, Anakin, you cannot become a Jedi. They are
ironically, they had the right call.
Well, that's a whole nother discussion.
True.
But like, ultimately, an antagonist just is someone, as Chris put it, a foil to the protagonist.
I'll add one more.
Don't know how this is going to be.
I'll add one more. Luke Skywalker is the antagonist in Last Jedi to Rey because he won't get off his butt and do the job.
Interesting. Like an obstacle for the character to go through is what we're getting at.
Exactly.
Technically,
someone who is there to challenge the character, because the antagonist, and the point is, antagonist is not necessarily a negative thing. It's not this character is evil. Like, no, it could be. It's more nuanced than that. And I like the idea of like some of these characters. We might be seeing some shades of the later Jedi in these characters. Maybe Indara is kind of a jerk. Maybe she's kind of a by the book Jedi that's just kind of an essence of Mace Windu. I get I get from Master Soul a kind of like, maybe he's kind of the Mace Windu of this era. He's a very powerful Jedi. Maybe he's on the council. He's someone who's kind of upholding what the Jedi should be, and maybe getting a little bit of that hubris. I don't know. I'm reading a lot into just what we get from him, but he is very powerful in the Order, and any of these characters could be that. And on top of, I think Leslie Headland, why I think she's just brilliant, and everything she says about this is so great. It's just the fact that she is talking about, yes, I want to tell the story. I want to tell the story of how the Jedi became what they became in the prequels. And that's something we talk about ad nauseum. I think it's cool to have someone that is so invested in this story, that is really a massive fan, telling this story, telling how this descent into darkness, which is beginning in this show.
Can't wait for the show.
Yes.
Going.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So speaking of darkness, the next character that we see is, I believe his name is Jord Thandar. And we see him talking about, I think he says, he says, someone is killing Jedi. It doesn't make sense. And he is described by the databank as a Jedi Knight and guardian from the Jedi Temple, is an overachiever and a rule follower. His need to be a by-the-book Jedi can cloud his mind. So, I don't know. Hannah, do you have thoughts on Jord?
What a great name. Great name. That's pretty much all I have. He seems like, I feel like there's a lot of kind of characters in this show that I feel like we could take the perspective of through the episodes. And I feel like we might get a particular, like a specific one episode or something where we kind of focus on him a little bit more. And maybe get a bit more of his POV of how things are being run, because he's seeming that bit younger, and maybe he's, you know, a little more cautious of what is happening. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm excited to see him on screen.
Yeah, it is really cool. Chris, what do you make of Jord?
Nothing. I've not thought about him outside of watching the show. I don't know.
Okay, Matt, what do you make of Jord?
Honestly, well, that's again this weird thing with this trailer is that it doesn't really give us enough to really connect with too many. I mean, the only reason he gives us enough Vern is because we have so much Vern already. Yeah, I don't know. You know,
well, if you read the books, if you don't know who Vern is, it's like, who's this bald?
True, yeah. So, but yeah, kind of with Chris. I mean, and within Indar, I was just kind of riffing. You know, again, considering his age here, he might be, one of those kind of middle transitional figures. I don't know.
I find it interesting they call him a guardian. Do you think he's a temple guardian? Like he's one of the temple guardians,
or just
he has a yellow lightsaber, and I think usually people with yellow are like sentinels or like guardians.
Not so much yet. They're at least 100 years before this. There's a whole bunch of different colors. So, but maybe kind of on the way towards developing that kind of class, because we don't actually see them like the one with the mask stuff in the High Republic era. So. Maybe on the way. I mean, yeah, Guardian protocols. There's different kinds of Jedi at this time too.
You know, I'll just say, since we're the Eye On Canon podcast, we might as well just bring it in these directions. I'll ask you this. I'll take a little mini host for a second, and I'm gonna ask Matthew. Are you surprised by how, even though it's like 100 years later, the Jedi are still pretty gold robes, flashy? You know, we talked about how much of a black eye the Nile are going to give the Jedi, and it's like, I think they recovered pretty well. They still got the gold. They still look pretty happy.
I mean, it's a good point with the production design. It did strike me as a transitional garb, because, well, also to say, so again, High Republic lore here, there's the temple garb, and then there's temple garb, which is like you see with in Jedi Survivor, with like the very ornate white with the gold. That's the ceremonial temple garb. And then when they're out and about on their adventures, they do dress more like this. It's a little closer to what we see in the prequels. This, I think, does actually seem more transitional, just in the palette is just this inner garment of just gold. But yeah, I mean, it's true, they still have the color there, and it's still a reminder of this time where, the thing about that era is people still love the Jedi. People still trust the Jedi. They look to them to be the guardians of peace and justice. And so they can, I mean, that's the thing about more colorful, ostentatious dress, is if people like you and trust you, like I see every Sunday, there's someone up front wearing something that I happen to like and trust the person wearing it. So, it's okay. It's fine. Like, I don't mind it. It's a reminder of that person's position. I'm talking about a priest, for example. It's a reminder of that person's office and position in the community that I understand and trust, and that person is just theology time with Matthew, is being responsible with that. Again, it's a transition to a sense, not even, I mean, we want to be careful, right? I mean, we want to be, Joel, I have your whole point about George Lucas and his view of the Jedi in mind a little bit, that, yeah, I mean, that comes to be questioned a lot. And especially, of course, that's Palpatine questioning it. But, yeah, the reason they ditch all the gold and say, we're just going to be more humble 100 years after this, or some point after this. It's true, right? Yeah, the Nihil haven't given them as much of a black hole, a black eye rather, black hole. Yeah, it's true. And to say, yeah, well, because they were triumphant, they were able to defeat the Nihil, except that to say they're on Coruscant. They're not on Quen, for example, in John Jackson Miller novel. They're not all over, but they're on Coruscant.
We don't know that per se.
Sure. But yeah, that's this whole behind background lore thing that is expressed, of course, in costuming is important to that too.
Speaking of clothes, I think that perhaps the biggest takeaway from this trailer, perhaps the biggest reveal that everyone's talking about is the revelation. This is a revelation not just about the Acolyte, but the entire Star Wars saga. It's the fact that Chewbacca was a nudist the entire time.
I knew it.
That's so true.
Yeah, Briaga also.
Because this is Kel Naka. This is Kel Naka, by the way, Jedi Master Kel Naka, played by Jonas Suotamo. And he's wearing clothes, guys. This is important information.
Oh, man.
This is a big revelation. But also, he's balding at the top. He's shaved his head partially. Never seen a partially shaved Wookiee.
It's true. I was very intrigued by that. I was like, is that like a hat? Like a hat? He's got like a net on his head or something? I don't know. Or maybe it's shaved. You're so right. There you go. Wow.
He's got a hairstyle.
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Went to the Wookiee barber.
He's described as a loner who keeps to himself.
I thought that was so funny. Like not solitary, not like a descriptive word. A loner, like loser. Loner. Like,
he's an uncool Wookiee Jedi.
Yeah. And he's like looking down and he looks so sad. I was like, geez, I'm really painting a picture with this guy. This is hilarious.
To me, he looks like he's like in handcuffs almost in this. It's really weird.
Sad. It's interesting though that he's still considered a Jedi despite being a loner. So maybe they still let Jedi just kind of live their life. It's like, hey, you doing you, buddy. You're still with the code good.
At this point again, going back to where phase 3, at Starlight Beacon Falls, Vern has become something called a way seeker. And that is someone who can go off and do whatever they want and figure it out. I wonder if there's something here too. I mean, it's interesting. Again, she's come back. Who knows what she's up to? But yeah, we have Tanaka. Maybe he's, loner as a character. What kind of choices has that inspired in his relationship to the rest of the Order? It's a good question.
And he's got, I mean, obviously he's a full-grown Wookiee. He's got fur looks similar to Chewbacca's. He's obviously played by the guy who played Chewbacca. Are we to assume he's around, 200-300 years old? That means that he was around before any of the High Republic books were, and maybe he's been out and about in the galaxy all this time, and maybe he's just now coming back or something like that. Maybe something's called him back. Who the heck knows what happened to Buryaga, if he knew Buryaga or whatever else. But Wookiee's supposed to be rare in the Jedi, but now we've got 2 in this short period of time,
3.
if Buryaga is still around.
There's a third. There's in like even older one.
There's a third one?
Yep. In the manga, there's I forget his blanking on his name.
Wow. They got sick.
Maybe they're not so rare after all.
Well, so I think George Lucas didn't want them. But now that he's not in charge.
Oh, I forgot that George was anti-Jedi Wookiee, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I don't like them furballs as a Jedi.
And then, and Gunji. There's Gunji later.
Okay.
Gunji.
Gunji.
He allowed Gunji to happen, so I guess he wasn't too anti-Wookiee Jedi.
You know what? You know what's so fun? This isn't going to be the only time we mention Gunji in today's show.
I was just thinking that.
If we ever get to that episode,
maybe this is Gunji's dad. Mate, what about that? What about that?
There we go.
That's why he's a loner.
Give me a Hutt Jedi that doesn't follow the dark side.
Actually, the fact that Kelnaka is losing his hair is confirmation that he will eventually become Snoke.
There we go.
Yes.
We've never seen a hairless Wookiee before. That's what they look like, guys. They look like Snokes. They're tall and they're lanky, no hair.
It's disturbing, but it makes sense.
Oh dear.
No, it doesn't, Chris.
The one Snoke theory that doesn't suck.
Let's power through the last few of these slides, Ben, so we can get to talking about Gunji more literally.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Let's go to this young lady.
I thought that was Leslie Headland's
X-23 Jedi. We got what's her name? Jecki. We got Padawan Jecki, Padawan of Master Soul, played by Daphne Keane. Really cool. She's half Thelan, half human, so a hybrid. Interesting. And I don't know. What do you think about this character?
This is Leslie Headland's self-insert character. I'm saying it right now.
Maybe. Yeah, why not?
I mean, I think she's about as set as much, so great to see.
I'm just loving all these alien characters. Yeah,
me too.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what species and where have we seen this species before?
She's from Jabba's palace.
So a Thelan, you've seen Thelans in there's one of the dancers in Jabba's palace. Also, Latz Razi, who showed up in Clone Wars. She was a Thelan.
Was she?
And one more.
Latz
somewhere.
Who was that?
Latz Razi is a
bounty hunter with
from,
a boa.
Yeah.
I thought so. Is he the one that helps those sad turtle boys?
I think so.
I have no idea.
From Hondo? Hondo was stealing their crop or something. And the band hunters were.
Oh yeah.
Was she in that episode, or was she in the episode with the train?
Oh no, you're thinking of the Zabrak.
Yeah.
Sugi. I am.
Sugi.
Sorry, another horned alien species.
So
Latz Razi is from the train episode, right? Where they hijack
from Bounty when
Boba
and Ventress tie-in.
There
you go, connection.
The bird guy.
Yes.
Leave this puppy for us. We must travel all the way up and not come back without it. That guy. Yeah.
Literally called a belugan. That's his name, belugan.
So freaking good. Anyway.
But we got those, and also, we got Mother Anisea, who apparently is leader of a coven of witches. We got more witches up in here in this Star Wars.
Is this the same witchcraft as Mother Talzin, or is this a different witchcraft? Do we have another?
They're not wearing red, so I don't know.
Hey, the Night Sisters, like the Sith, don't have a monopoly on witchcraft.
Exactly.
Okay,
they're the Day Sisters.
Exactly.
This is she's played by Jodie Turner-Smith. So we finally got confirmation of who she's playing, and I don't know. I have no
Remember
idea.
when I went
so many
with the Path of the Open Hands for 5 seconds before, they're witches. Never mind.
She does. She's holding her hands out.
Well, so she's the one who has that line, right? Of it's not about good or evil, but who gets to wield power. And so I mean that's so I just want to camp out on that line for a bit, because that's the one that's probably the whole the dust storm on Twitter and all that. I was thinking about that because the delivery of that line, she delivers it very benevolently, very softly, even though she's saying something that most Star Wars stories don't agree with, don't track with, right? The characters we have heard say it are Darth Sidious in Revenge of the Sith. We've heard it, DJ in Last Jedi. Characters who aren't
point of view, Anakin.
Yeah, it's characters who aren't supposed to be very trustworthy. She's saying it more trustworthy. I'm wondering one of two things, possibly both at the same time. Is she being deceptive? Is she trying to be like Palpatine, kind of luring a character in to say, that the Jedi are, or that even those who are trying to actually serve the light at all, that they're actually being corrupted, kind of like Palpatine, or as in, are we supposed to believe her or are we not? Is the question, and is that where this show is going? And it'd be fascinating to see. Yeah, on the one hand, on the surface, if we're not supposed to believe her, we're not supposed to trust what she's doing. That'll kind of confirm everything we've always felt and thought about Star Wars. I'd be interested, and I'm ready. I'm willing to be challenged. I'm willing to be preached at here a little bit. Ironically, saying preached at, to say, well, wait a minute. What if this show takes a different perspective, at least on the Jedi, if you will, than say George Lucas would? And that's kind of the big question that's come up, and it almost oddly given everything with George Lucas and Bob Iger and whatnot. But I'd be intrigued to say, is this getting at who is serving the light or turning away from the light, but in a different way? Is it, again, reinforcing this thing we said about how are the Jedi holding on to power? Are they wielding power and not concerning themselves with good and evil? And so good and evil is just this narrative we tell ourselves, a story we tell ourselves to make us feel good about ourselves and to justify and legitimate our institutional power. And it's what take on the prequels, I guess, is what I'm curious about where the show goes. And again, that's the thing. There are multiple ways of getting at the story about how to serve the light. Let me tell you, Dave Filoni in this show called Clone Wars has this character called Ahsoka Tano, who leaves the Jedi Order, spoiler alert, because she gets falsely accused of bombing. All that. You know what I'm getting. You know where I'm going here. And so, it's again, I think Twitter debates are kind of silly. I think kind of going overboard. I hope we're, as a fandom, as fans watching this, more open-minded to say, okay, is Leslie Headland going to get at this story in a different way? I mean, at its heart, all Star Wars has to, and I'm going to make this claim, has to be about helping young people step out and have a constructive role in their societies. That is what Star Wars is. That's what it does, and that's what it should do. There are different ways to do that. And what if, because people have had different experiences of church than I have. People have had different experiences. I mean, maybe not so different, and that's part of it too. Different experiences of, people have definitely had different experiences of the police than I have. And that's a story that needs to be told, for example. So institutional power, it's always this funny thing, a funny question about the relationship in it. When is this story being told? It's being told in 2024. It's not being told in 1977. And so, but even then, when it was told in 1977, there was Vietnam going on. And so, right.
Exactly.
I think we do well to keep in mind why, if that's where it's going, if it is a critique of the Jedi and their institutional power, what is Leslie Headland saying?
I mean, you set all this up by saying, maybe it'll veer from George Lucas's vision. I don't really see that alternate view being all that different. I mean,
right. That's
look at the original trilogy, and look at who the Jedi are in the original trilogy: Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah. They're not painted as perfect characters, and their ideology at some points is very much to blame.
I disagree. I think the prequels aren't criticisms of the Jedi Order. I think that's not what Lucas ever intended. I think George is very pro prequel Jedi.
No.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's pro no attachments, pro no marriage. Like, even Luke was gonna just do the Jedi Order the same way in his sequels. Sorry, my dad's sneezing. So I don't think that George is actually very pro prequel to Jedi, and that's the point that Matthew and I are kind of getting at. It's like, this is not going George Lucas's vision, which is fine. I don't care. I like things that go against George's
I never
vision,
interpreted it that way. I always interpreted it as those being bad things.
No, George is very pro those things.
Well, then he did a very bad job.
I think George in general is not anti-institution. He is skeptical of institutions. I think he is someone who is all about looking at the corruption and looking at and the whole prequels are like an allegory of just like, obviously how does a democracy turn into a dictatorship, but also how do the Jedi let this happen? How did the Jedi happen right under their nose? And George could have set this up a completely different way, like how maybe the Jedi were off somewhere else and they were, attacked by the Sith. Like, no, he set up this thing where it was the Sith infiltrating and getting right under the Jedi's nose and being able to do all this stuff and clouding their vision. And I think George, I'd be curious. That would be something. That would be something that I would pay a lot of money for. Is a commentary track.
Yeah, I mean,
a commentary track from George Lucas watching the Acolyte. That's what I want to see.
Well, I mean, okay, so for example, one of the dogmas of the prequels is that you have to be younger than a certain age to be trained as a Jedi. That's one of the Jedi dogmas, and yet you have Luke being trained, even though Yoda's like he's too old. You have Anakin being trained and Qui-Gon wanting Anakin to be trained. And those are seen as like the right moves from a storytelling point of view. So I think that while perhaps some of the Jedi code, the kind of essence of who the Jedi were would be who George views as good ideals, I think that he would have seen the Jedi as straying from those ideals or adding too much dogmaticness to those ideals in the prequels. And that would be his interpretation of why the Jedi Order fell, which I would assume would be similar to the interpretation Headland would have, even if it's a very, I don't know what word you want to say, like postmodernist or post-structuralist type interpretation.
That's where I'm going. That's the word itself specifically. It's a very post-structuralist quote, postmodern quote.
I mean, I'll meet you halfway and say, I think George does believe that Jedi need to be trained as babies. I just think that George sometimes just forgets what his narrative's doing. So, I'm more than happy to say that George
I didn't see that as incoherent. Like, I saw that as a statement. I saw that as a didactic statement of the rules are they're there to be rules at this point. And what good are rules that are there to be rules when rules are supposed to actually protect? And there was no protection going on. There was the opposite of protecting. And I think that post-structuralist view that Headland could add to, because, George Lucas certainly, is of this post-structuralist cloth, because he's a contemporary of Campbell, and then Campbell goes back to like Carl Jung, and is very much in that when before it was called that, but when it started becoming that thing. I mean, it's just like how it's good that I forgot the name because no one else is going to know it. But yeah.
I mean, Wittgenstein, Derrida, these philosophers just saying very post-structuralist. Yeah. But I mean, again, where is Leslie Headland coming from in this is the real question I have.
Well, yeah, because we're in the openness of it now. Yeah. We're in the point where people will actually be self-aware of the fact that they are pushing against the structure of the past. Before, people were doing it without being aware of it. Just now we know what's going on. So maybe George might not have been able to articulate it. He might not have been able to say, I think what he would have articulated is, this is a common mythology. That is
I have a George quote, just a small one. It's Lucas's interview from Paul Duncan it's in that Jedi archive book. It's like the 2000s. So this is like really recent, like after episode 3. And he's talking about Luke's Jedi Order here. He says the Jedi have to grow again from scratch. So Luke has to find 2- and 3-year-olds and train them. It'll be 20 years before we have a new generation of Jedi. So he's saying Luke's got to find the babies.
The Acolyte trailer, guys.
Hannah, I'm curious what you think about this, because you want to chime in there.
Yes, I have like 4,000 points I've been holding in. Because I think one of the purposes of the show, aside from it's a new show, it's a new piece of media, you know, it's going to look cool. I think the purpose of it in the in-galaxy kind of order is that the few pieces of High Republic stuff that I have read is it isn't, oh, this is like how the Jedi were just about to be bad. It's very vague, and it's a lot more broader and open, and it's these really like long years, hundreds of years spanning stories about how do those cracks in organized groups happen, and how do and the pressure on them just accentuates them over time. And I think this show is connecting that kind of the broadness that the High Republic shows of, you know, the fall of the Jedi. Like it's not really the fall of the Jedi in the High Republic. It's the cracks. It's the why is this foundation not stable? And then we have the prequels where second movie in where, you know, everything's crumbled. Palpatine's in charge by the first one. Like, let's go. Where, you know, how it's really just answering the simple question of how did we get to that point? And I think the Acolyte is that connective tissue between the broadness of High Republic to the fact of the prequels. And Acolyte will be this, how this weight on the cracks of this organized unit, how that affects it, and how those cracks really open up. And then you get, you know, whether it's canon or not canon, you get the Palpatine, young Palpatine coming in, and how he can actually situate himself there. I think I can really tell it's gonna fit that pocket and answer this question really well. And I hope it does.
I agree.
That's what I have to say.
And I think this show, I think this show probably is going to end because we've had all the hoopla about Baby Yoda. I think the next big thing is going to be Baby Palps. I think that's what this will end on.
Oh gosh,
is the Acolyte toting around a Baby Palps all around
all
around the galaxy.
Going to Naboo. No, that's definitely possible. We'll see Naboo.
Just shriveled up
Very
evil
true.
baby thing. It's like Voldemort in Harry Potter 4.
Speaking of the Sith, before we wrap up, let's talk about the final scene, which I think is the most awe-inspiring of everything. And I don't have a slide for this one. I apologize. We're just going to imagine. Just close your eyes. Just close your eyes. What do you see? Yeah, I see the trailer because I've seen it 5,000 times this week. It's this moment where we see what's that, and then a bunch of Jedi ignite their lightsabers, and then we see a red lightsaber flying through the air, cutting a bunch of trees. It lands in a human hand, I guess, and then that figure seems to emit some kind of red force push mist, whatever, that knocks all the Jedi down. And who dat? Who that red bladed guy or girl? Anybody got any theories?
I guess I'll maybe here's something interesting to ponder. Is it more trailer trickery? Is it a Sith Lord? I mean, like, because so like visually and like, you know, Star Wars fan wise, you know, the narrative cues are all there. Red lightsaber, like pure blood red. It's a black cloak. We all know what that is. You know, crimsicle. I mean, it's full on crimsicle. It's full on red. You know, black cloak. You know, we know what that means. You know, the Sith Lord, a Sith Lord. But is it the Sith Lord? Could it be a guy in a black with red in a black cloak? Like, is it the Acolyte themselves? And do they count as the Sith Lord, or is it like an acolyte of the whoever the Sith are? Right? Like, because we don't know that the Sith. You know, I do think that though there will be at the end of this series tie-ins to the Sith and what they're up to. That's just but the Acolyte themselves, you know, it's like, you know, hey, Sidious had a bunch of black robed people helping him out on Exegol. You know, Ventress wears sometimes black robes and got red lightsaber, and she was an Acolyte of Duke of the Sith. So in some ways, maybe this is the Acolyte, but not the Sith Lord.
I don't suppose that those two things are the same. So I agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's also the Acolytes of the Beyond. Who knows? Who knows what Leslie Hilden's pulling from? Right? If she's pulling from the Aftermath trilogy,
I wouldn't be surprised if she.
Is she pulling with the name? And that's something we've always wondered. You know, Yup Tashu and everything he's up to. I mean, Acolyte means assistant, means helper.
Assist can have helpers.
Yeah,
they need helpers.
So maybe, but
And
some sort of like Hannah mentioned cracks, right? Who's coming in, taking advantage of the cracks? The beachhead could be the Sith beachhead. We don't know.
And as we've seen throughout the entire saga, a red lightsaber does not make a Sith. And like, I think that's the point that the Jedi Council will make when this is brought up. And they're like, there's a dude with a red lightsaber. And they're like, no, the Sith have been extinct for millennia. You crazy. I think that's that's the biggest complaint that I've seen. The biggest semi-logical complaint I've seen levied at this trailer. Just like, well, this is retconning the prequels. They can't, the Jedi can't be seeing a Sith because obviously Darth Maul is the first Sith they've seen in a while. I'm like, you do realize the Jedi are in a state of denial in this era. They are completely believing their own hype, believing their own hubris in that they defeated the Sith thousands of years ago. And there is no more Sith. They can possibly come back. Mace Windu says, I don't believe the Sith could have returned without us knowing. Like, they're very full of themselves. And of course they're gonna be. So there's gonna be Jedi that, like, whoever this is, it's a Sith, not the Acolyte, whoever's going on doing Sith stuff with a red lightsaber, there's Jedi that's going to see them. Maybe all the Jedi die. I don't know.
Sorry about that.
They're gonna go back to the Jedi and be like, "Yeah, we saw a dude with a red lightsaber," and they're like, "Nah, not convinced.
Yeah.
Not convinced. Not convinced. He had Sith lightning and things. Nah. You're gonna bring, you have to give me more evidence than that."
It's making me. I mean, you mentioned just. Hopefully, this isn't too much of a tangent, but you mentioned arrogance and believing in their own hype. I mean, again, I'm thinking of Vern probably being able to have this warning, cautionary tale. I used to be young and believed my own hype, and here, looking at 100 years ahead, and here are these older dudes for them believing in their own hype and being arrogant and saying, "Yeah, we can join this Clone War and do what we want." I mean that is another thing that this show is going to do, is in light of this potential Sith crisis, in light of the cracks in the Foundation, to say, okay, there are warnings, there have been warnings. The Force sends prophets, if you will. If Vern is going to be one of those prophets to say, like Qui-Gon, Qui-Gon was one of those prophets of saying, wait a minute, don't believe your own hype, don't believe everything you think about yourself, because Qui-Gon is the one to come and say, yeah, he's a Sith Lord, and they don't believe him. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see again how they navigate and how they negotiate with Jedi Masters who come and tell the Council what's what.
I mean, to defend the Jedi here, can you really blame them for not believing a Sith is around? It's 1,000 years. We don't know what that final war was like. It could have been a really, the Sith really got their butts handed to them big time.
That's the thing about prophets, is they don't usually make sense.
That's true. And kind of two things here. One, if there's two big fan EU thing, because Leslie Headland talked about big EU ideas. Two big ones I really want to get at. One, I really want to see if the show kind of gives us a good backstory hint of what that final Sith Jedi conflict is that makes them so confident that the Sith are gone. Because I think that's important. Because 1,000 years, that's a long time. I would just it'd be like if someone said, "I saw a dinosaur." It's like a dinosaur has been extinct for 100 million years. I wouldn't believe you either.
Malachor, right? The Battle of Malachor.
Battle of Ruusan. Two. This is something a lot of people brought up. How does Yoda know about the Rule of Two specifically from the Clone Wars? And I'm talking about the Clone Wars. It's one thing if he's guessing, master to apprentice. That's how it normally goes. But he's Darth Bane's Force essence ghost thingy. Create a Rule of Two. You did. In Legends, Rule of Two was secret. They didn't know about the Rule of Two. But Yoda's nope. You, Darth Bane, created the Rule of Two. Yoda, how do you know that? Where'd you get that info from?
And he also knows in Phantom Menace that always two there are. That seems to be common knowledge among the Jedi. I just think, it is, you have to put it in context of just even Yoda, the oldest and wisest Jedi, has grown up, lived his entire life in a time when the Sith were extinct. That's just a common thing. Yeah. You have to think of just like this is I love the dinosaur analogy. I'm just like, yeah, that's ridiculous. You saw a dinosaur? Yeah, sure, you saw a dinosaur on the way to work. Come on now, you would think that, but like,
I mean,
that's
one of the
thing.
Jedi
Like,
was
the
a
whole-
dinosaur, so
That's true.
And Bo-Katan saw a dinosaur,
we're more likely to see a dinosaur than a Sith.
That's true. Yeah. So, it's like, I think we should maybe explain, like, what was that last battle like? And, like, the Sith were, like, really defeated. So that's my two big things.
You got to wait for Mangold's movie for that. The third Mangold movie
That's
for
too,
that.
Oh, yeah, third Mangold movie,
We really should have done 2 podcasts this week.
Yeah.
So, what did everyone think of the Bad Batch 6 week? I liked it. Next.
It's fun. I like the
5 stars.
So this week's episode of the Bad Batch was the 8th episode, Bad Territory. It was directed by Nathaniel Villanueva and written by Matt Miknovitz. And in this episode, desperate for intel, Hunter and Wrecker track down a dangerous bounty hunter. Let's start with you, Ben. Thoughts, opening and closing and middle about this episode.
Okay, I'll try to keep it brief. Actually, you're all saved. You're all saved by the fact that we don't have time for this, because I was getting ready to rip this episode a new one.
Dang!
So
I can't tell you how to
save
be
it.
sarcastic.
Wow.
I'll save it. I'll save it for later. All I will say with this episode is meh. It was okay. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great either. It was just a episode. Not much happened. I mean, like, the whole thing was just like, oh yeah, they're gonna go meet Fennec, which, like, it's good to see Fennec. Like, genuinely, like, I like the little subplot with, Crosshair and Omega, doing therapy, getting their, getting Crosshair's mind right. Like, that was cool. I like seeing Fennec again. That was great. But, like, other than that, like, going to see Fennec to do this job, this side quest, and I knew even before she said it, I'm like, oh, she's gonna get them to work for her, and then they're gonna go off and they're gonna go to Louisiana and fight some gators and take out this and capture this bug guy, and then even by the end of the episode, like, no, I can't give the information now. I gotta wait. I'm like, I waited the whole episode, 20 minutes, and you're not even gonna give me the information, the thing that's gonna play to the next episode. It's just kind of an okay episode. It really, I can't things. I know a lot of people have complained about it being too dark. I didn't experience that, but I know it has been a big issue. But
Interesting.
Hannah, what do you think?
I'll jump in here. I kind of had the energy that some people will think about that for this episode. And it is interesting because I feel like we shared that opinion of a lot of episodes from season 2 of being like, oh, this episode's just here. It doesn't, like, kind of explore much. And I was like the queen of saying that last season. Whereas this episode, I'm like saying the opposite. I'm like, this is so good. This is such good storytelling.
Traitor!
Such good story progression. I know. I'm going against you this week. I really loved it. I thought it was very Clone Wars. It felt very, like, if I had to place this episode of a story type in Clone Wars, it's like a very, like, season 2 or 3 kind of episode, where we have this very neutral, random, not really connected mission. Really, like, it's not like direct to something, but it is some sort of a vessel that our characters go on to discover something about themselves and each other. And I mean, well, that's a big crux of storytelling anyway, but that's just, to me, what this episode was doing. We also have the introduction of one of the most epic, most incredibly named characters I have ever heard, of the grasshopper man that we had to get in this episode, of the name of Silas Saris, the Slayer of Ordo Eris. What a freaking title. I love this guy. I think
That's
that was
incredible.
so fun. I thought that was so fun. Like, say that fast 3 times. Silas Ceres, the Slayer of Order Eris. Like, come on, so good.
Say
So
that
good.
while baking cupcakes or something.
True. But yeah, like I mentioned, I think the meditation scene was also really special. Again, every shot of this season so far has been perfectly colored and lit. I'm not saying like, oh, it's lit like a teenager. I'm saying like the lighting in the episode was very good. I wasn't like,
that episode of the Bad Batch was hella lit, fam.
Lit, man. Yeah.
Creativity episode.
For real. But yeah, beautiful. I really loved this episode. It was really fun.
Yeah. You're good.
Oh, I'll go. I thought it was fine. It's fun. I didn't feel like Wrecker and Hunter didn't really do much in terms of character arcs. I like the Crosshair and Omega stuff and meditating and trying to psychologically deal. Like I felt it was a really good exploration of PTSD. I really like that. And after you go, Matthew, I'll just leave this little nugget here. Anyone think Fennec calling Ventress? Anyone think she calling up Ventress? Like, hey,
yes.
Ventress, we got some M count lookers. You might want to deal with them.
Yeah. Also, Hannah, I'm with you. Just because it isn't a plot episode, if it's a character episode, then it's still great. And this one really reinforced both in the main plot and, I mean, literally with her there, the importance of Omega to these other characters, right? I love how even if while they're on this voyage here in Mississippi or New Orleans or wherever they are, Louisiana, in the bayou, they're going on and they're talking about Omega, and they don't even tell Hunter and Wrecker don't even tell Fennec what happens, but the fact that Fennec knows to needle them about how she got captured under their watch, it definitely brings up the pathos. It brings up the, like I said, the energy about, oh, this kid really matters to them for more than just M count, right? And there's this contrast with why she matters to the Empire, just for what she can be used for. She matters to these guys because they're taking care of her. They're the little sister thing going on. Little sister who is able to support and
sister.
Well, sure, but able to support and guide and help Crosshair. And yes, age, sure, but in terms of physical strength and all that, height, able to really take care of Crosshair and guide him, and so shows her confidence and her growth as someone who can really, again, a young person stepping out and contributing to her community, and in very meaningful personal ways. I want to say just a little note. I really love Batcher in this episode. Nothing he does is strictly necessary for the story, right? He's there on the ship. They're chatting with V, and he just shows he's just there. He's just vibing. They're on the rock, helping. When Crosshair's taking the shot and missing, just their vibe, which adds so much just flavor to a scene, just playfulness. Is really this image of Crosshair's humanization. And I wonder if Dom may have mentioned this in an episode, the previous episode, where they're on that planet and they run into like the poker game episode. Crosshair being able to connect with Batcher and call him Batcher. Yeah, just then again, a little very subtle cinematic storytelling in that. So yeah, I will say the lighting when it's dark, I watched it in the afternoon, and so the apartment was actually too bright, and so it was hard to see sometimes, but then at night it was easier to see. That was just a few scenes. Otherwise, yeah, it was I'm satisfied with it as a character episode. I can see why people would be frustrated. They want things to move forward. We do. We're already halfway through the season, right? And so, or maybe more. And so we want some movement, but again, we're getting the movement in Omega's character, and I'm here for that.
Yeah. I mean, like you say that, I like contrast it with the first episode of this season. Like the first episode was a bit had a bunch of kind of slow character moments in it and a little bit less action in it. But it was all very focused, and everything in it seemed to need to be there. And so like I really liked the first message. Like I really liked the first episode of the season. This episode had the chance to do the same thing, but I felt like they got scared. And the show is really good. This show is really good. The writing is really, really good. But once in a while, I feel like they fall into some traps of writing. And I feel like they totally fell in a trap of writing on this show, on this episode, which is the trap of you need a formulaic action plot in order to be the Bad Batch. Because it didn't need to be. You could have just had the whole thing on Pabu. And you could have just had it dealing with Crosshair and Omega. And that would have been great. But instead of allowing the Bad Batch to get the information about the M count, which they easily could have just bypassed straight to that, you felt like there was this need to, okay, we have to have this action adventure element to this episode because this is an action adventure show. So instead of just allowing them to get the information directly, well, they have to go complete this side quest so that somebody else can then go and get the information for them. And it felt kind of shoehorned and not appropriate for like where we're at in the season with the tone and the progression and pacing of this season. So that was my problem with it.
I think all the Star Wars shows have that problem. I think Clone Wars had it, Rebels had it, Resistance had it, and this had it.
It is a recurring trap.
My thought with this episode, and I totally appreciate, and I think kind of am drawn to have that same opinion, but I think my one thing is that I feel like that opinion might change at the end of the season, because this might be a needed episode to have a contrasting shift of tone for some reason. Then maybe the next episodes to follow this, we needed a drop in this energy or a moment of this pacing to accentuate something else later in the season. That's my theory. I want to come back to this episode of why it was here. And because you got a good point, why wasn't it earlier? It feels bizarre that this is the midpoint, but I think there might be a reason to it. That's my theory.
What if the Mantis guy, whatever his name is, what if he comes back? Well,
Silas Saris, the Slayer of Order Eris.
What if that's the thing with Rebels, right? Especially season 4, you'd see things like this that feel like we don't know what the importance of it is. I mean, we could be wrong with he might not come back, but
I mean that still doesn't make it a good episode, though. I think just the whale episode can still be bad, even if the whales come back. That's my.
I mean, they might lead an army of space crocs against Tantus, and that's how this season ends. I don't know.
I love the Purgle moment just for that, like the earlier Purgle moments for that reason. Because you just having them in mind. What if they know what they're doing? Not saying.
Exactly.
Diamond Fig says, I need a one-shot comic of Omega and Boba doing one-off missions together as soon as possible.
100%.
Thanks for the
100%.
super chat. And that would be amazing.
Silly Willy.
Should Ethan Sachs write that? Ethan Sachs had better write that.
Yeah.
Because
he
just started Django. So
I'm just waiting for Boba Fett to show up.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Where is he? Where is Boba Fett?
If they do that, though, if they don't kind of answer this whole idea in the show, I'll be super disappointed if they just put it in a
I don't think Boba Fett's important to the show, though. I don't think he matters. I don't think Omega cares. I don't think Omega.
It's not important to the show, but it's important to us, and we're the ones watching the show.
I mean,
what if Ethan Sachs write a comic about it? There we go.
Who she was talking to was not Ventress. It was actually Boba.
That
would be awesome.
Fennec, in the future, Fennec and Boba are BFFs, so
True.
They don't know each other. They don't know each other.
Yeah, they don't.
Until Tatooine.
That's true.
That's the only issue.
Really,
I wish because it was they met. He was like, "Who are you?" When she was dying on the sand, he was like, "Okay, I'll fix you."
Really?
Yeah, that was their first meeting.
Yeah.
well, I think they should.
But I wish it wasn't. I wish it wasn't. And the fact that like, I wish like it was a thing that like they were a team now, and he was like, this like up and comer, and she's like trying to teach him. I wish that was the story now, and then Book of Boba Fett happens.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty like 99% certain that the first time they meet is in Mando, on the Mando timeline.
Yeah, there would be an allusion to it if not, for sure.
Crazy.
I see a comment that I really want to comment on, but I don't want to make a tangent about it.
Well, let's do it.
All right. So
Mount Tangent.
Omega and Boba are siblings.
That is relevant.
I disagree. Weirdly, I don't think they are because they are genetically of the same blood. But here's the thing: Boba doesn't care about the clones. He doesn't see them as his brothers. He just sees them as weird copies of his dad. The only person he cares about is Jango. He's dead. As if he saw Omega, he's like, I don't care about you. Bang, bang. I'm going to turn you into the Empire.
So emotionally, he doesn't accept anyone else as his sibling. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, pretty much. He's like, they're just clones.
Okay.
Like,
even though if he doesn't care, like even the fact that they look like him will matter to him. I mean, like on was it not Tython? What episode was that? In Mandalorian when they're infiltrating the Imperial remnant base there. It's like, yeah, I look familiar. It'll still be relevant in some way.
I think the most we'll ever get out of like an Omega Boba relationship, I think, will be post Return of the Jedi. I think that's the most we'll. I think post him out of the Sarlacc pit is the only way we're gonna get like Boba actually appreciating the fact that he has another things, because I think in this era, not only is he very anti-clone, like I'm not your brother, he's also a cold-hearted bounty hunter who's just out things, and he hasn't had his hero's journey yet. He hasn't had his brush with death in the Sarlacc pit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it doesn't mean anything for Boba's story. I think it means something for Omega's story.
Yeah,
because
which is maybe the reason why he doesn't show up in the show. Maybe he's not going to show up, and that's it.
Yeah, but I still think it would be very interesting for Omega to meet him, because that's just going to add more of a foil to her character.
I think it makes more sense for her to meet him post Return of the Jedi, because she'd be like, oh my god, you look like Hunter and Wrecker. Like,
well, that's what I'm kind of expecting too, with her being so young. Wait, does she have the growth acceleration or no?
She's 13 regular.
So she's not gonna. So she's going to age at the same rate that Boba does, that Tem does out of universe, and so she very much could have someone play an older version of her,
which is perfect there. I mean, honestly, all you have to do is get all you have to do is just have Tim Morrison with a blonde wig, and you got Omega. Like, come on, it's right there.
Oh man.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I do think post Return of the Jedi, I think that would make more sense for Omega, because Bad Batch could have just died from old age. And it's like, that's when it says like, oh, shoot, you look just like them now. Like, this is kind of weird. I'm getting all emotional. But, compared to today, where it's like, I got my brothers. You are my brothers. And this Boba, like, you might be a brother, but like, yeah, Boba Fett's like, I'm going to turn you into Dr. Hemlock. Get my money, please.
I feel like Omega is meant to be like the Gen Alpha Ahsoka. Like,
Probably.
I feel like there's kind of a character for each generation. I feel like Leia is like the character for of hope for the Gen X generation for the original trilogy. Padme is that character for the millennials. Ahsoka is for Gen Z, and Omega is for Gen Alpha.
Oh yeah,
so I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of her going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Interesting. Yeah, I've thought about that too.
Yeah.
I mean, Rey also. I think Rey for Gen Z also.
So also another interesting aspect. We talked about Omega in this episode. We talked about a little bit about Crosshair and Becher. But what about Fennec? Fennec is an interesting person who keeps coming in and out of the story, and she's definitely one of my favorite parts of this episode. Like, I love Ming-Na's representation of her is really great performance of her.
Yeah, Ming-Na continues to be a treasure. She's a treasure to Star Wars, and I think the character I've loved. Like I can't describe my anger when I can't describe my happiness when I learned, oh yeah, they're casting Fennec, Ming-Na Wen in Star Wars, and then the same episode they kill her off. I'm like, what are you doing with my emotions? The fact that she's become a mainstay and is showing up everywhere now is just delight. And yeah, she's great. Like Fennec is such an interesting character, and I'm glad that she's become a big part of Bad Batch.
Bring in the cavalry.
Yeah.
That's a Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. reference, of course. But yeah, I mean, definitely so watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and then watching this. Watching Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett. Yeah, definitely more of her. I mean, it adds a different wrinkle because she isn't so grizzled. She isn't so cynical, I don't think, right? Mm-hmm. The fact that she's also tasked to ensure that Omega, at least originally with the Kaminoans, are trying to ensure Omega is safe in the right hands. And so that is her. I mean, that's just her job, but you got to have some commitment to the job. It can't be purely money, or you won't be able to do a good job, frankly. And so, like we see with her in Book of Boba Fett, she has more of this moral core to bring that conversation back. But,
that core gets replaced. So.
I was gonna say it's because she gets a new one.
That is true. I got like one more thing I just want to think about before we start wrapping up, and that is, okay, we know bounty hunters are searching for M count people, right? Ventress was a bounty hunter before she died. What if she's hunting the M count bounties? But instead of turning them over to the Empire, because I don't think she was going to do that, she and Quinlan Voss got the proto Path of the Open Hand thing going, and they're like, "We're gonna get you out of here! Like, go away, hide, hide, run!" And when we see her fighting the Bad Batch in the trailer, she thinks the Bad Batch are hunting M count because they're bounty hunters, and it's like, I don't want you stormtrooper looking guys doing it. And then it's like, oh wait, we're all friends, we're all good, we're on the good side here, even you, Ventress.
That's an amazing theory.
And then Ventress and Bad Batch team up to do some epicness, hopefully.
I mean, she's definitely she's a bounty hunter with an M count. No, former Jedi, but also we don't know if she's actually fighting the Bad Batch. I mean, Joel, I think I remember when we talked about that trailer, you thought that was some trailer trickery.
That's true. There could be some trailer trickery.
I think Go ahead.
Am I the only one who thinks it's kind of odd that no one knows what an M count is?
That's one of those funny things. Yeah.
I would assume if you're not a Jedi or a Force user, you wouldn't know. I don't think the public would really know. They would just know the Jedi are powerful. I don't think they would know why. And so, the Jedi aren't around anymore. Even if it's been a few years, it's like, even if a few people did understand what it was, it's just not a thing anymore.
I'll say that I said this before, and I'll say this again, and it gets stronger with each incident of it. One of the things that I really love about Star Wars is that there's no internet in Star Wars, and there can't be.
That is so true. They can't go on Twitter and be like, "The hell is this?" Yeah, or Google.
What is a Sith Lord?
It very much has.
What is M count?
Yes, because it's like has that very kind of like pre-industrial vibe to it, where it's like, just because one planet knows something doesn't mean another planet will know it, because the information has to physically pass from one to another on a ship, and no one seems to be using the holonet to transmit information of that type. It seems to be just broadcasts and Skype calls.
Yeah.
I think that going off of that Skype, that hologram call, whatever you want to call it, at the end of the episode
from Skype,
call.
From Skype.
And the thing is that Microsoft sponsored Star Wars in Washington State, and so every time they bring up the holograms, it's just a Skype logo is superimposed on it, so they don't have to air commercials between the episodes.
Is that like McDonald's and anime?
Yes, I hope.
Instead of instead of the classic sound, you just hear that classic boop 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 boop. That music, that music. Whenever they're calling someone in Star Wars. But getting back to my point, I think we're meant to think that Fennec is is betraying them, and I think the opposite is true. I think it's an ally. I think it's someone, because like the other things, and we have a confirmation that he's in the season. She could be talking to Cad Bane. But last time she saw Bane, they were fighting, so I don't know if they're on the best of terms. I just think that Fennec has been largely thematically shown to be a good guy. She's a good bounty hunter. She's someone who will do the right thing more than. Whereas Cad Bane, bad dude at things, and he's never really the good guy.
Bad
so
Kane.
I think
Bad Bane, bad Kane,
bad name.
One last thought there. I mean, the thing about this is early in the days of the Empire, but at least as we see, to the end of the days of the Empire, if the Empire forces you to take sides, it forces you to pick sides.
Right.
Even in the underworld, they're not exempt from it, and they either end up supporting the rebels or they end up being taken in by literally on we see all those bounty hunters on the bridge with Vader, go find the Falcon and Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, really. I mean, so I think we're already starting to see that with Fennec to some extent. Not that she's necessarily perfectly lily white or anything, but the comics definitely go into this. Ethan Sachs Bounty Hunters comic definitely explores again morality of folks in the underworld and found family and the way that they need that, and they're not entirely they're not nefarious or antagonistic, to bring that theme up again too. So I can see this Fennec fitting with that as well.
Yeah. Bad guys, eh? If Cad Bane had a theme song, it would be Bad by Michael Jackson.
Sure.
Cad Bane.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining the Cops theme song.
I'm Cad. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Fun times.
So let's see. What other aspects? Is there any other
talk
things?
About the episode?
Yeah. Is there any other things people want to mention before we get to final thoughts?
I think
it was
good.
fun.
I'm good.
I liked it.
It was
I
fun.
did not hate it.
I think it was a good summation.
Can't argue with that.
All right, so let's go into any final thoughts that people have, and then the scores out of 10, of course. We're gonna start with you, Matthew.
Again, gave me character moments, including on the barge. I'm gonna keep thinking about that moment, especially because it doesn't seem to advance the main plot, but you get how Hunter and Wrecker feel about Omega, and so that's why what carries this episode for me. So I don't do rankings. I'm gonna give 13 euros out of 13 of this episode.
Wait, there's 13 errors?
No, but
wait,
he likes 13. So
what is this? 2027?
Yes.
I thought I just Rip Van Winkle for a moment. Fantastic. Joel, let's go to you. Final thoughts and score out of 10.
I thought it was fun. Certainly not the best episode of the season by far. But it had like all the good stuff with Omega and Crosshair dealing with their meditation and PTSD. So, but it also, as you say, Chris, kind of fell into some of the classic Star Wars series traps of just kind of action, adventure, and kind of just a little bit too much. We need a plot of the week. So I'll give it a good 7 out of 10.
Awesome. Hannah?
It's a good time. I loved it. I think it was just really fresh. I like the pace change. It is slower. It is quieter. I think it took it down a notch, and I kind of wanted that. I think I just needed to breathe from all the clone heavy stuff we've had last week and to process all that. And then obviously going into the back half of the season now, I think this was like a good kind of just little resting point for a second. But I love the sweet moments we got in this episode. I think there was some really powerful stuff. The conversations and idea of Crosshair needing less physical help but more psychological help, I think is really important, and something that is just so can be so interestingly explored through the Star Wars lens. So I love this episode. It's not perfect in terms of all the elements are at 1,000%. I think I'm going to give us a 7.5 out of 10.
Fantastic. And Ben?
I'll put it like this. I usually rank my Star Wars based on how much I want to rewatch it. If I really, really want to like something, I will watch it repeatedly, and I will have seen it 10, 20, 15 times. This episode once was enough. And it really just like it's almost frustrating. Like the season has been so good so far, just like, nah, this is just this story just kind of takes a backseat. It's just like, it's just there. And I get we need character moments. Like I said, I really like the stuff with Omega and Crosshair. That's great. And I think that's that. There's stuff happening. It's just not enough to keep me engaged. So I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 10.
Ooh, low score from Ben. Yeah, I gotta say, I did stop watching this episode in the middle to go outside, and then I came back and finished watching it because I'm like, there's only so much daylight left. I'm just gonna pause this and then watch this later, and then I finished it. So definitely kind of had a similar thing for myself. Yeah, I'll give it a. I'm not gonna say it was horrible. I didn't hate it, so it's a 7 out of 10. It was still entertaining and enjoyable. But definitely not my favorite episode, and has good moments, but I feel like at this point, grading on the curve of how good the season has been so far, it's definitely probably the least enjoyable episode that I've had, or at least interesting episode that I've had of the season so far. Let's go to the chat for rankings. Our good friend Kieran Duggan is in the chat. Been chatting with us all night. Anyone who's new to the show, Kieran used to host all of our reviews with us of Star Wars shows. So great to hear from you. And he gives it an 8 out of 10. This episode was super fun, really rewatchable. Fennec was great. Loved the Omega and Crosshair sub story, and found it to be fun. Kirsty Forbes gives it a 7.5 out of 10. Good episode, interesting dynamics and character points, moves story along. Kenny gives it a 9 out of 10. Love this episode of Bad Batch again. And we got a 7 out of 10 from Matthew Hardy. Before we move on, our Matthew from Eye On Canon, we know you have to go, so we will give you the chance to plug your shows one last time and any social media.
Yeah, you can follow me, my personal socials, Instagram and Threads at MNEUG1138, Twitter, NEUG485. And Eye On Canon. Joel, you can talk about it a bit more. 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, right here on this channel. So do subscribe. Don't have to go anywhere. Right here, Monday nights, 8:30. We're talking about Order 66 and getting a special guest on that I've been wanting for a while. So that'll be a good time. Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Usually, the last 2 weeks we've moved some things around, but next week again, Wednesdays are for comics. Comics are for Wednesdays. Chris Abbott and I review the comic books that came out that day. Right here on this channel. You don't have to go anywhere. Right here on these socials. Don't have to go anywhere. Eye On Canon podcast is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts right after we record. So if audio is more your speed, please do check that out. Also, Toronto Comic Con, just the panels from that. Still working out how to get recordings up and sorting things out with that, but it was a good time. It was a great time. I was in 3 panels. Dom was in 2 panels, and yeah, it was a successful time. I'll say that, and very productive, and worked out. So good to know, great to know, and great to bring in the High Republic fold and the Taylor Swift fold and all that fun stuff. So yeah, anyways, I do have to head out, but it was good seeing you all. Glad to be back, and remember, you are all Knuff.
That's right. Thank you, Matthew.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
I'll see you Monday.
And we have one last score to get in from George, 9 out of 10 from George. Really loved this episode. I don't think we have enough time to get to all the Ask the SWU, but let's pick a few of the good ones.
Look, I promise we will get. Look, if your question doesn't get read out tonight, it will get read out next week. We will get to everyone's questions. There's a lot of good stuff in that channel tonight. We can't get to all of it, but we'll get to a couple of them.
I was going to suggest, should we just start next week's show doing Ask Underworld?
That's a great idea.
That's a wonderful idea.
How about we do that? We start it.
Yes.
I love that we change plans when Dom's not here, and then we always have to tell him next week. He hates it, and I love it. It's so good. How about that? How about that? Let's start
we can do whatever we want, guys. We can screw it all up, and he'll come in next week.
Let's
and
change
so
date. Let's
confused.
have a
It'll be
show
great.
every day. Let's do that.
So
Dominic's like, I'm out of it for a little while, and everyone got delusions of grandeur.
Let's do Martin's. Let's do Martin's. Martin says, with Hasbro announcing the Acolyte Black Series figures, who will be getting them and how many of them? They're all ready for pre-order by the time your show starts. Who's going to break down and buy some Acolytes?
Oh, I want to see the show first before I
know who
choose
you're
who's
gonna
my favorite
pick.
and who I
Yeah.
want. You know?
For the record, this is your options. And also, I believe the Master Soul and the May figures; those are also in 3 3/4 inch vintage collection.
Nice.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
I
May
mean,
looks amazing. She looks
I
amazing.
kind
I
of
agree.
you'll have plenty of time to think this over. I think ultimately it comes down to like what character you connect with the most. I think the forgetting her name now, the Daphne Keene character. I think she just looks cool. So I think if I had to pick one, it'd be her.
Yeah, that I'm kind of between her and May, and probably I'll get both. I would say,
right,
based on just how they look right now.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get them sometime next year.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad that we got some figures. So that's it for this week. We of course will be back next week to answer those Ask the SWU questions and celebrate Dominic's triumphant return to the show. Knock on wood. And Kieran's excited for Dominic. Actually said he's not here because of the chaos. That's hilarious. But yes. Until then, you can follow us at the SWU on social media.
Only on threads. Only on threads. Okay. If you're following us elsewhere, unfollow us. Only follow us on threads. Okay. That's the rules.
Yes, you're already following us on the social media that you're watching this on. So threads, you're not over there because you're not
like the video. It's good for the
Or
algorithm.
If you happen to be the 2 people left on Pinterest, go follow us on Pinterest.
I need some streaming options on Pinterest. That will save Pinterest. Pin a live stream. That would be great. All right. So once again, thank you to Matthew from Eye On Canon for helping host the show, mateys.
Yo ho, a pirate's life.
It's been a long show. We're losing our minds. It doesn't make sense anymore.
Please watch Eye On Canon on Mondays and Trek Tribune. On Wednesdays, I've now been informed. And Ben, thank you so much for hosting as well.
Oh, it was a absolute pleasure as always. Clearly, when Dominic's away, the podcasters will play. I don't know, but it's been chaos, and he's probably screaming at us from somewhere, calling us crazy, because it is. And but yeah, this has been a heck of a lot of fun. Loved talking. Loved that we have so much to talk about tonight. Couldn't squeeze it all in. We had 2 things to talk about. And we couldn't get it all in. And there's like a mountain of other things. They're playing the Star Wars movies on the side of the Empire State Building right now. I'm not even comprehending this. It's just insane. I don't know why all this stuff's happening at once, but yeah, it's a great time to be a Star Wars fan.
You can follow Ben at social media at Ben Hart with no E. Joel, thank you as well for hosting.
You're welcome. I am glad to have hosted. And even though we couldn't have got to it, I just want to make a shout out to a friend of the Star Wars Underworld Discord, the Raven, who suggests that the Sith Lord of the Acolyte truly and will be Darth Nubs. It's Nubs. I am. He is the Sith Lord. Get ready. But no, I had a lot of fun talking about the Acolyte. I got a lot more to say about the Acolyte. Of course, you can check us out at the Eye On Canon podcast and the Star Wars Underworld Discord, which I realized wasn't promoted. Yeah. Check that out. We'll probably continue, Ben. I think what we say is now. We'll probably continue the great marathon next week. I want to do that at least.
Awesome.
Oh yeah.
So and you can follow Joel at social media at JID2021 at JID2021. And then Hannah, of course, thank you for hosting as well.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I like we've all said, so much happened this week, but it's kicking off right now. We've got an incredible few months of being Star Wars fans ahead of us, so it's a good time.
Heck yeah, and you can follow Hannah on social media at the Raeside for those listening. That's RAE side, and make sure you subscribe to her channel on the YouTube, and make sure that you subscribe to this channel on the YouTube. Punch that subscribe button, Chewy. We want to thank everybody who super chatted with us tonight and our channel members for helping make this show possible. Huge shout out to everybody who's subscribed on your favorite podcast app and has left us a review. And Joel mentioned it. Check out our Discord. It's where the fun continues throughout the week. Whenever we or our network shows are not live, we're always chatting on Discord and hanging out over there. The link is in the description and the podcast notes for you to check out. And we've got those game nights, we got those watch parties, we got all those amazing things over there. And make sure you check out all those other shows on the Star Wars Underworld Network, the Raeside, Eye On Canon, and Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, Tractor Beam, and more. We've got you all throughout the week with content. I mean, with the schedule that the Raeside has, with multiple pieces of content per week, almost every day. There's something.
Yeah, I'm almost at that point
between your channel and then the other several shows as well. So there's your daily dose of Star Wars at the Star Wars Underworld Network. Check out all that awesome stuff. All right, we'll be back this time next week. But until then, for Matthew and Ben and Joel and Hannah, my name is Chris, and may the Force be with you. I wanted to sing this before, but I waited. Let's get down to business to defeat the Hutts.
I did for you guys.